Hey, welcome to the Practical Prospecting Podcast. This is episode 2. I'm Troy Barter alongside my co host, Jed Marley, who is the founder of Practical Prospecting, created the Practical Prospecting newsletter that has just around 30,000 subscribers. The purpose of this podcast is to break down those newsletters. Specifically, today, we're going to break down newsletter 131, which is how to build high quality prospecting lists. And we're going to pick one of the harder TAMs and ICPs for us to build lists on so you can get an idea of how to do that on your own. Should be easier for you to do it on your own because the one that we did, it's pretty tough and we're still able to absolutely kill it for our customers. Now, if you want to skip the trial and error and have us build these systems out for you, you can go to the booking link that is in the description here. We'll schedule a quick call and we'll go over how we may be able to help you guys out as well. Jed, prospecting lists, and
Yeah,
it's for keynote speakers, which is it's a departure from I think what any other cold email agency would go after. We had one that fell in
yeah,
our lap. I had a feeling, both you and I have both done keynote speeches and seminars and things like that. I always had a feeling that if we tried to turn the practical prospecting engine on that it would perform well because what do we look for in a great client? We look for a high revenue that they're able to bring in, their average deal size. And we're looking for a high closing percentage that shows that there's demand in the market. Generally, if they have those two things, there's some other factors, but usually we can kill it for
yeah,
someone if they have both of those things. And keynote speaking, it's pure profit. Generally, the fees are high, but there's not all these other, there's not a tech stack that needs to get paid before they can earn their money or other employees. And the closing percentage is generally really high. Even on outbound, it's 50% or above. But no one's ever built out a list for this. Even the keynote speakers, usually, I've talked to a boatload of them since we've done these campaigns. They book through word of mouth or someone heard them speak and then they referred somebody else in, and that's how they generated them. We had one
yeah,
come in organically, and we're able to, we confirmed what we thought might be the case, and we're, probably our strongest performing campaign in quite a while. How did we do that when we had no
yeah,
list up front?
yeah, man. And I think when I wrote the newsletter, it was obviously the newsletter is breaking down how we built a very specific TAM for
Yep.
specific types of clients, but also like the goal here is to also show everybody else how you can take these lessons in building your own TAM, even if you don't sell, keynote speaking, right? And so
Yep.
I'll break it down. The first like thing I want to emphasize here is that when you're going out and building your a list of your total addressable market or an ICP list, a lot of times the basic industry fields won't do the trick for you, right? So like the old way of doing things would be, okay, I sell to tech, so I'm going to do software development as my industry, this employee size and this location, and kind of call it a day. But then if you've been building lists for long enough, you know that a lot of crap gets lumped in with those industries, and a lot of times your ICP has a number of different industries that they fall under. And so, if you really want to build a true list of your total addressable market, where you have 99% confidence that everybody in that list could be a potential customer, then you need to take a more nuanced approach. And so, talking through this example of building out TAM lists for keynote speakers, so people who want to speak at events and conferences and that sort of thing, we took it in a three-phase approach. So the first phase was finding the event listing sites where conferences, trade shows, and events are being promoted. And there's dozens, if not hundreds, of these. But the first step was I literally just went into ChatGPT and said, what are the top sites where I can find upcoming events, trade shows, and conferences? And then we settled on five where we felt had the most coverage. So it was 10 times industry events, conference alerts, conference locate, and all conference alert. And all those links are in the webs or on the newsletter if you want to check that out. And from there, we used a tool called Instant Data Scraper, which if you aren't using it, I highly recommend it. It's a completely free Chrome extension that lets you scrape from websites automatically. It's awesome. And so we scraped all of those websites for all the 2026 events. We put those into Clay, and then we just ran a prompt to identify what theme those events are, if they're paid or if they're free, if they're in person, if they're remote, etc. And that helped us build the first part of our TAM, which was all the 2026 events. And I'll pass it back to you, Troy, to get your thoughts. But the key lesson for that first part of the TAM build is a lot of times, especially if you sell into like regulated industries, there's a lot of publicly available data you can find, right? So like for example, we have clients that sell into schools and universities. There's tons of publicly available data that you can scrape from websites as opposed to data platforms where you can get all the school districts, enrollment count, etc. So keep that in mind. A lot of times data platforms only have part of a story, but you can find publicly available sources on the web that if you scrape them, give you a lot more data that you just have to filter a little bit more. But I'll pause there and see if you have any thoughts or questions, Troy, before we move to the next step.
I would say the only thought, like we're not partnered with Instant Data Scraper, right? Like they're not paying us or anything like that for anything, are they?
No, it's free. I mean, they don't even have an option to pay for it, I don't think,
So
which is crazy.
I say that because like we spend nearly $500,000 a year in our tech stack to deliver for our clients. This was one of the tougher, like it wasn't tough for us, but in theory it should have been one of the tougher lists to build out. The fact that like a critical part of that is leveraging something that's absolutely free, like try it. Like
Yeah,
that's crazy considering. I mean, if there was something better on the market that we could have spent for, we would have bought it. So that's awesome. Um, that's really it on my side, man. I know it's worked really
yeah,
well. I mean, obviously, what's helpful for folks that are doing this on their own is that you can really dig deep into this and continue to develop the list with us. Different clients have different needs. There's different industries that they're going after, but it is nice when you find a lane that works incredibly well for like a particular client where we can expand on that, which we have. We've built,
yeah,
I have God, I probably have about 8 meetings a day,
yeah,
speaking to keynote speakers and everything like that off of the outbound that we do. The more that we can dig into that, we build, hundreds of thousands of contacts at this point, right? Off of this list. Um,
yeah,
Very cool, man. Awesome.
yeah.
But yeah, we
Um,
can keep it pushing to step two, man.
yeah. So step two, this is going to be pretty much relevant to everybody. Is it's the next step from there is okay. We've got all the 2026 events directly from the event pages. Let's find every company that hosts events and conferences. And so, regardless of what ICP you sell to, um, a chunk of your TAM will be on LinkedIn for the most part, right? And most people sell into industries where the company has a LinkedIn profile, but there is a lot of people who sell in industries where not every company is going to be on LinkedIn. But regardless, that's always going to be a source you have to scrape. And the thing to keep in mind is that if you're using data tools like Clay or Apollo, et cetera, that data is built off of the back of LinkedIn. So when you're using like Clay, find companies or find people, it's all based on what's on LinkedIn. And like we mentioned earlier, one of the biggest issues is that LinkedIn industries are just not an accurate way to pull your TAM a lot of times. And so what we use instead is within Clay in the Find Companies feature, we use company description keywords rather than industries a lot because the description keywords will help you narrow in. So for example, we said, give me every single company in North America that has the keyword conference, conferences, events, expos, summit, convention, trade show, etc. And that helped narrow down our list quite a bit. And if you're trying to figure out what that is for your ICP, a recommendation I would do is take a list of your customers, go look at what their company descriptions are on LinkedIn, find the common keywords, and then use those keywords in your company search. But the next step from there is you can't just assume just because they have one of those keywords in their description that they are a qualified fit. So what we use is in Clay through our OpenAI API key. We run a prompt that costs literally pennies per company to run, not even pennies, a fraction of a penny, to go to each website and actually determine yes or no, are they a qualified fit? So in our case, are they an event organizer or not? And if you want to build these prompts, it's very simple. Just literally go into ChatGPT, say, this is my ICP, build me a prompt that goes to a potential customer's website and says yes or no if they're an ICP fit or not. And we do that for every list we build. It's just the kind of final layer of qualification to make sure that that company does meet the ICP. And so that's what we did. We said every single company on LinkedIn has these keywords in the company description, and then we ran a prompt to make sure that they were a qualified fit. And then with another prompt, we filtered it down even further by looking at when their next event was, when their next event date was. Again, is it paid? Is it free? What sort of themes are they? So that we can segment the company list. But that's a huge part because step two pretty much applies to everybody. Almost everybody is selling into companies that are on LinkedIn.
Fair. I, I think the big thing in general with this is I'm sure there's a lot of folks that like they subscribe to the newsletter or they're listening to this because they're looking for ideas on their outbound email or copy or anything like that. And it may not be top of mind, particularly if you're at a larger company or a company that's been around a while, to build a list out. As wild as that sounds, like when I worked for Fleetmatics that Verizon Connect bought, the list was built. Like it was
Yeah.
thousands of companies that were already in Salesforce, and everyone had reached out to them already a million times. No one in the entire company was concerned with building a list out. That's a problem in reality because you're never going to find anything new that materializes, and also the chance that you have a complete list to go after is essentially zero. Like there's almost no chance that you actually have that. On top of that, we've both experienced this. I think most companies, they know the size of their TAM and they have an idea, and they have an idea of what their ICP has been traditionally. But with pretty much any company, particularly like startups, early stage startups, or even fairly well funded ones, they don't know what is actually their ICP and how many other examples of their ICP are actually out there. The way to find that is, all right, what's coming in inbound? What are we closing that is a departure from the ICP that we've identified already that's already working? And the way that we used to do it, both you, Luke, and I at PandaDoc, was three things that we were looking for. Number one, when that deal closed that came in inbound that's outside of the ICP, was there a phenomenal product market fit? Like we didn't have to massage anything, probably didn't even need a sales engineer. Like it was plug and play, easy to go. And then from there, like what was their level of excitement to like get
Um,
things going once they close? Like were they borderline offering up referrals as soon as they bought? And then the final one was, is it an underserved for you and for the folks that are doing anything outbound? Is it an underserved industry or is it an underserved region? Like you may be going after, schools, like you were saying, or government or education on the East Coast because that's worked really well. All right, has anyone looked into building out a list for things that are on the West Coast? Like, or is an industry came in and it's like, wow, this actually happens to be a really good fit. Maybe we should actually build out a list on this. We've never thought to do that. Generally, if they meet all three of those things, you want to build a list out and at least test it. You're not going to put everything that you have into it because the chances are astronomically high that if you closed one of them and they meet all three of those, there are more out there and it might be the hottest lane. It might be hotter than the ICP that you've already identified. That's literally how we 40x'd PandaDoc's outbound number in a 2-year period. Specifically, how we 10x the number within a 1-year period was that we found that and then we built the list out.
yeah.
So if you think you've already got the list, you probably do have a good list, but you don't have your entire ICP for sure. And you definitely don't have your entire TAM. That's where stuff like this is important to do, even if you think you've got it, because it's just going to widen the viable funnel that you can go after with the things that you may have actually tuned in for, which is like your email copy and your call to action and everything like that. Um, that's what resonates with me just from experience is like
Yeah.
the list is never done. And as soon as you move on from building those lists out and identifying new opportunities that might not be in the ICP that you thought it was, but there's more out there, that's where generally things become stagnant. If you want to like really supercharge your outbound, continue to build lists, continue to look for new things that are closing, that are outside of the norm for what's within your list, and go out there and try to build a list on it.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, man. I think like there's two really foundational pieces if you're trying to build a good outbound engine. One is obviously deliverability and email infrastructure, which we've talked about in the newsletter a million times. But the next one is having a solid list and like a good list of your TAM that you have total confidence in. Because if you can remove those two variables, you know for certain your emails are going into the inbox, and you know for certain that you have the right list and a complete picture of your TAM, then that removes two key variables that determine your success in outbound. You can focus all of your energy on messaging, which is usually where most of the energy needs to go in terms of
Yep.
testing and iteration. And then to your point, yeah, like the list is never complete. Like what we'll often do with new clients when we start is we build out the total addressable market, but then each quarter, we'll look back at the previous data, who responded positively, how can we expand the list, what new companies have maybe grown and now fit the ICP criteria, et cetera. So it's always being built. That kind of segues nice into the third step into building out the TAM, which was
Yep.
okay, we have direct from the source of event pages, all the events being ran in 2026. We have all the companies we can find that host and run events. But now we want to get alerted immediately anytime a new event is announced. So the way we do this is using a tool called Trigify. It's one of our favorite tools that we use here.
Yep.
And basically, it's a social listening tool. So you can set up alerts whenever a keyword is mentioned across Reddit, LinkedIn, YouTube, even X now, and I think even a few others, but primarily LinkedIn, to be honest, at least for what we do, is what we care about most. And so it's very simple. We just set up alert that says anytime the word event, conference, or trade show is mentioned in a LinkedIn, Reddit, or mainly just LinkedIn and Reddit, to be honest, post, push that data to a clay table, and then we run a prompt that reads the post and essentially checks for three things. Is this post actually about an event that's in the future and not just a false positive because they use the keyword event or conference? Again, is this event in the future? And then is the theme relevant to who we're trying to reach out to? And so that just runs automatically. And it's kind of like that safety net that catches all the new events that are popping up on a day to day basis. So we don't have to keep going back through and doing big bulk lists. So, like, we've got the bulk of it in the beginning through steps 1 and 2. And now we just have an always on alert that will find new events as we move forward. And whatever you're selling, whatever your ICP is, Trigify is a good. And by the way, this sounds like an ad for Trigify. We're not sponsored by them or anything. But using social listening tools like that is a good way to catch those other warm leads that you might have missed or might come up in the future after you kind of build your initial lists.
I love Trigify. So for practical prospecting, I do the demos. Jed and everybody else in the company are the smart ones that do the stuff that we're talking about here. I am the elder statesman salesperson, but I bring up Trigify on every call because in terms of what I think is the hook that interests people in working with us, and a large way that we generate the results that we do is by leveraging Trigify to find like the most relevant buying signals that are out there. And you're right, they don't pay us, but man, we probably should reach out to them because they ought to, because we're probably going to talk about this a lot on every podcast.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you
man.
had a quick 2-minute video overview of that workflow. So if you're listening to this on Spotify or wherever podcasts are found, wherever you found it, we'll put a link to that video in the description. If you're watching it on YouTube, we'll just put the video right here.
What's up, everyone? In this video, I wanted to share how we are monitoring for relevant events in our client's niche so that we can prospect people attending those events, people engaging with those events, and use it as a warm signal. So the way we do this is using Trigify, which, if you aren't familiar, it's essentially a social media listening tool. And we specifically use the listening feature where we will put in the keywords, which are going to tell us the theme of the event. So I just did a basic example. So the theme is AI, so it has to have that keyword and at least one of these keywords like event, conference, whatever. So from there, you can monitor YouTube, Reddit, or LinkedIn. I just want to monitor LinkedIn. And then from there, we set up a webhook to Clay. So here is an example we already have running for a client. And as you can see, all the events come through here. You have the author URL, you have the post URL, you have the content. The first thing we're doing is we're running an AI prompt to determine, is this event in the future or the past? If it's in the future, we send a Slack message and we send the data to another table, which is right here. And now our next step is to qualify, is this event truly within the theme of what we care about? And if it is, we find that person's name, find their company name, their title, their domain, their work email, clean up their first and last name, clean up the event name, and we push that to a smart lead campaign with a personalized message around the event, the person, the context of the post, etc. So, anyways, if you're curious about this, obviously we run this for clients. So if you want to learn more, let me know. Or if you want to check this out for yourself, let me know. I'm happy to send you the Clay template. And yeah, thanks for watching. This is just one of many awesome workflows that I like running using social listening tools like Trigify.
If you sell keynote speaking gigs you sell to event and conference companies, like this is your lucky day. We broke it all down for you. But obviously, I know 99% of you don't. So the key themes are, use our strategy for really getting a full picture of your TAM. Go to publicly listed sites that you can find online, pull everything off of LinkedIn the right way using keywords and a prompt to qualify them, and then set up alerts for new companies and new signals that you didn't originally find. But that's pretty much it. Yeah, nothing else to add. And check out the links in the newsletter description with more resources there.
Awesome. So two things on my side. Number one, I have a feeling that a lot of the folks that listen to this, there's probably some sales leaders, some marketing leaders that do keynote speeches or that have done seminars or that maybe got paid for one or have been on panels but want to do it. If you are within that, we are wildly overperforming in that particular lane. So if you want to find out how
Yeah.
we'd be able to help you do that, if you don't have the bandwidth to do it yourself, the link will be in the description for you guys to be able to book. I'll be the person that you'll be talking with, and we'll see how we might be able to help you out. Or if in general you are looking for help in building out these systems, and you don't want to deal with the heartache and the trial and error of doing it on your own, I'll give you one fun fact. We've lost 4 customers over the past 2 years total for the exact reason of we're just going to try to do this on our own. And I've been saying for the past maybe 3 or 4 months, 3 out of the 4 came back within 6 months. We brought the 4th back on 2 weeks ago. So we are batting 1,000 on lost customers that left to try to do this on their own to come back. Why? Well, Jed, you helped quite a bit with the newsletter, but at the end of the day, it's tough to do. You need a lot of bandwidth to be able to do that. If you lack that bandwidth or you just want someone that can immediately get this thing going for you and produce results incredibly quickly, the link will be in the description to be able to book. Don't forget to like this, subscribe to it wherever you're finding it, and we'll see you next episode.